Welcome to the Financial Freedom Mastermind Group podcast. Here we're all about breaking free from the 40 to 50-year work grind and accelerating our journey towards financial freedom. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast-track your path to financial independence. We serve as a hub for connecting with fellow members during our sessions so you can share successes, ask questions, and keep the momentum going.
Good evening, everyone. This is Nehi Adewale, host of the Akaba Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group, and I'm excited to be joining you on this Wednesday. I can tell you that I was literally working right up until this call because there's just a lot going on, man. A lot of opportunities out there, a lot of fires to put out, and a lot of different situations to work through. But man, it's the best time as ever to be getting into this real estate market. I'm excited. I'm pumped about the future, and I'm happy to be joining you guys here today. Couple announcements. One thing that we did earlier today, and we sent it out to the group that normally joins the mastermind team, is one of the members of the Akaba Home Realty team, Liban Ishmael, put together a newsletter that he plans to do pretty consistently that we're able to send out that had a market update as well as other success stories and things to watch out for. And it kind of put some we'll say some context behind what the market's doing right now and the type of deals that you're able to negotiate. And so that's exciting. Thank you, Liban, for putting that together. I hope that everybody got some value from that. And we would love to hear some feedback. If you want to send that via email and or talk about it on here, that would be awesome. And the other piece, I know we've talked about it a lot, right? But I'm going to pull it up now because it's finally real. It is here. We just launched the mansion on B&B 2 days ago. And so we got one booking so far, a lot of interest. People are trying to do events, things of that nature. I'm going to share my screen just to take you through some of the photos to see if anybody has not heard or seen about this. I think it's pretty exciting. This is our largest one yet. And I cannot wait to start getting individuals in here to see it. So I'm going to share my screen for a little bit just to show you the mansion. And then we will kick off the call. So this is what it looks like. You can see this was professionally designed by our go-to designer. And this is a 10,000 square foot mansion that is now open for business. So if you have any events, you're thinking of a cool space, feel free to reach out. Plenty of room. We're allowing 16 guests. You can do more than that if you're doing an event. And it's just a lot of different areas to get lost in. But that is what I got. It's kind of what I'm excited about here. Stop sharing my screen. If you want to join, please feel free to hit that join live feature and or drop a question or a comment in the chat, and we will kick this thing off.
Alpha, what you got, man? You get a chance to look at the newsletter?
I've been training for works. I didn't know there was a newsletter. So maybe
That being said, let's get to the real issue, man. I see that there's actual drywall behind you. This is good.
Yeah. I got some drywall that still needs to be sanded down and painted.
Nice.
But yeah, I have a wall now, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
I'm in ring today. So yeah, and then I still gotta fix the floors and stuff. But for the tree that hit my house, I went through insurance. I got 4 quotes, and then I got a quote to remove the tree in a tree inspection. And I got the money from insurance. So I got that money today, direct deposit into my account. So now I'm going to go talk to a couple of contractors and try to negotiate and see how much I could get them to kind of fix. I did want to ask you this one question. So I found this contractor that's flipping 2 houses down the block from me. I got a quote from him. It was pretty fair to get a lot of work done. I kind of want to ask, how would you vet those contracts? I did walk around the house. It looked decent, but just try to vet contractors and kind of going through that whole process, because it's probably the second time I did major work. The first time I went with that first guy, with the guy who kind of worked on the water mitigation, which wasn't the best. So I'm kind of worried about just dealing with contractors, and this is going to be, I'm possibly going to have to work on the roof stuff, which is like the siding, the gutters, the roof, and also change the floors in here. So good amount of work.
Well, I'm going to give kind of my response, how I handle it, both before and after we get a contract signed. And then Kwame, I know you've worked with a couple contractors too. Would love to hear your thoughts. But on this piece beforehand, I think you're doing the right thing. Going and seeing the job site because they didn't expect you to come in, right? So you can see, hey, how's the work they're doing? Are they cost effective? Is stuff just lying around on the floor? Are they just wasting material? So you can see that piece. But I'd also ask them, hey, what other jobs are you working on? And go and check others so you can compare and contrast, right? That's one piece I do beforehand. But the main thing I focus on is one, trying to get a referral, two, verifying the work, going to go and see some of their work, but three, that contract, right? Like literally, and Liban knows the person. I'm actually working with a contact that you introduced me to, Liban, here, to do some work at a house. And I got the initial contract and everything looked good except for the term, right? And so I talked to them and reshifted the terms. Because what I'm always looking for is I want to have the biggest pie at the end. I don't want to be giving, 50% and then 25%, and then all you have is 25% to finish the last bit of work. I want to reverse that. Hey, I'll give you 25% here, 25% there. And I'll keep 50% at the back end in case something goes wrong here. I can go find somebody else to finish it out. Or it gives you an incentive to make sure this gets done. And I also like putting in penalties, right? If we start going past time, just so we're all aligned, right? Hey, how long do you think this will take? 3 weeks? Okay. I'm going to give you 4.5. And if it goes past that, then we're just going to kind of, push on it. Did that help at all?
Yeah. So I haven't did no contracts or any of my contracts. It's been more smaller jobs. So you actually find a contract online and then you have them write down your terms, how much it's going to cost and how long you expect it to be and kind of get all that in writing and have them sign it beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah. Kwame, you got anything on that?
Yeah, for sure. I had an issue where I paid the contract too much up front initially, and this is where my first contract was in contact with. I ended up firing him on a job, and the best thing you can do is cut ties early, take your emotion out of it, and let that be it. Once I did move on and find a new contractor, I was able to get more of a detailed explanation of what is actually going to be done. And I like the idea of setting penalties where in the case of the contractor / handyman I use, I've made rewards because he was just so helpful in solving other issues that came up. Expansion tank and air conditioner issue that needed to be fixed that had nothing to do with what he was doing. He was able to take care of it, save me maybe a couple grand if I'd have hired a professional to take care of the air conditioner. So you're always looking for them to have the ability to solve problems. Yeah, so that's kind of my take. Yeah, hope it helped.
I might need to sit down with you and kind of hammer out this contract before I'm okay with waiting. Like I said, the tree fell a couple months ago and it's just sitting there. So I just kind of want to make sure I do it right the first time. I know the last time when I got some work done, took about a month and a half just to get my floors back. And I don't want to go through that again. So.
Yeah. And I think what Kwame and first off, happy to do that. Let's definitely set up some time. I can show you some of the other contracts that I've passed and the one I'm working on right now. But what Kwame mentioned about the reward piece, that's amazing too. And, I tend to go on the other side, right? With let's make sure we're aligned, give you extra time and do the penalty. But with the kitchenette that I put in downstairs for the house that I live in, right, to house hack it, that kitchenette was originally going to cost about $13K, but it ended up costing about $12K because of that penalty language, right? There were some delays, I forget exactly what happened, but the person was busy doing a lot of other work. And so they started prioritizing other work. We started hitting the penalties. And it was like, hey, it's up to you, man. Like every day, I'm losing $100 a day. And so pretty quickly, once we hit those penalties, it got done. And I ended up saving money, which equated to how much I'll probably make from the B&B. So it's really good to have those conversations up front and have it written. It's uncomfortable to have these type of conversations up front, but you definitely want to do it and have it in writing and sign off, make sure everybody's good. Oh, and the reason I'll get to that is because when I put in the penalty language, he said, okay, that's fine. I think we can get it done sooner. And I want to get an extra $100 per day if we get it done sooner. I said, okay, that's good with me. I'm good with that because that means I can list it sooner. That being said, it didn't work out in his favor. So,
Okay.
it can go either way on that.
I had another question regarding contracting. So I'm in a situation where I want to do the burn method out of state. I already have a property. And I guess one of the questions is how do you because the same principles of pulling up on the property, surprising them, seeing the work, vetting them, how does that look from out of state perspective? kind of wary on that because I got to start looking at contractors.
In my mind, so I did a lot out of state too, especially when I was in Boston investing in Louisville. And I'm not the person that was going out and betting the contractors, right? What I did is you got to find one piece to your team and find a rock star out there. And so in Louisville, it's my realtor. My realtor is an investor. She's crushing it. She's a rock star. So I literally just used all her contractors. Tell you that her roofer that, she had, there was a couple times, it was very fun. He did like 3 or 4 of my roofs. There was a couple times where I would call him or call my realtor and she'd be like, hey, you got to stop using my guy because he's supposed to be doing my roof and he's working on yours. Like that type of stuff. So it gets funny over time, but I recommend whoever you're using, whatever teammates you can find out there that are solid, ask those people if they know anybody.
Okay, I feel comfortable with that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Fair enough. Mark, Desmond, welcome. And Desmond, I know that you were putting together.
How you doing?
Super good. Super good. And welcome back, man.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks since I've been on the call. As you know, I've been flying back and forth from Boston to Atlanta, and I usually fly on a Wednesday night, so I missed this particular call. So good to see everyone. Hopefully, once I move down to Georgia, I'll be on the call more consistently. But good to see everyone.
And we can't wait to welcome you down here as a resident, man. Definitely a lot warmer than Boston.
That's true.
Yeah. But Desmond, I know that you've been putting together something that's pretty cool. I think a lot of people have reached out to, at least me and Liban to ask about this method. And I think Dom, you may be interested in this too. But Desmond, do you mind kind of sharing with the group what you're working on and how it's coming?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So on the 1st, so just about 2 weeks ago, I signed the lease for a 3-bed, 3-bath apartment, and that's on the west side of Atlanta. And basically I wanted to start out, and I'll kind of tell you how this has changed over the course of time, but I wanted to start out doing an Airbnb arbitrage. I have a couple of Airbnbs at my current place, which is a 4-plex close to the airport here in College Park. And those have done really well. And I've had a lot of fun, me and my girlfriend kind of managing those and running those and whatnot. So I wanted to try my hand at the arbitrage. And I actually heard about it really from like these Instagram ads. I feel like they're getting so good at like the targeting nowadays. They see that I like look at real estate stuff. So I like see these guys, come learn, join my course about how I set up 25 Airbnbs in like a year. And so naturally I'm interested. I'm like, that sounds, like a lot, like it's pretty cool. So I kind of started plugging into that and just like listening to more podcasts and whatnot. So basically learned about the arbitrage method and how not only can you do it with Airbnbs, you can also do it with, midterms and even long terms as well. And for folks that don't know, it's basically the idea that you rent a place out and then try to arbitrage it. So basically get at least a little more renting it out on short term or like a midterm basis than what you're paying on the lease. And that's what I'm going to be able to do, which is super nice. So yeah, I started out wanting to do the Airbnb arbitrage. And I think it'll at some point get there. And specifically what I wanted to do was rent by the room. And I actually ran into some friction when I was trying to set that up. Basically, I had like pretty much everything in place. Like we were getting the rooms ready to go. The first room was going to go live this past weekend. Excuse me. And I was getting quotes for short-term rental insurance. And really, I was getting renter's insurance quotes, and I needed short-term rental kind of assistance baked in there, or like, kind of terms baked into that. And basically, the company that I went with, Proper Insurance, and they kind of specialize in doing short-term rental insurance. Folks may have heard of them. But basically, they wouldn't allow rent by the room because of some sort of liability. They couldn't really deal with shared spaces. So that kind of like threw a wrench in my plan and basically made it so where I couldn't do rent by the room in the arbitrage. So kind of had to pivot. Basically plan from there was going to be to just do it as like a full, house and put it on Airbnb, put it on booking.com, which folks can plug into if they're not there yet. Talk about that. But yeah, so that was kind of the plan. And actually my girlfriend suggested, hey, why don't you move the tenant that's staying below us into this house? And I've actually had a guest who I found on booking.com she's probably stayed this is probably her 4th month now, staying with us, it's been amazing. And she's actually paying a weekly rate because that's kind of how her money comes in. And that's kind of what she's able to work out. And it has been freaking amazing. So she is actually, it's crazy to say, that unit is really paying the mortgage, out of that one unit. she's paying $800 a week, which I know sounds insane, but we basically kind of talked about it, and we've had multiple conversations that, hey, like, compared to what I'm getting for a short term, like what this goes for on Airbnb, this is really like a deal, right? Like compared to like what the rate is, like when you really add up the fees and the taxes and all of that, like when you go and type in 30 days, like, and you look at 800 a week, you're like, wow, like, okay, I'll take that. So my mortgage is only 3,300, and like that right there, it gets me so giddy just to talk about. Like I could cry talking about that. But basically, sorry, I know I've been talking for a minute now. I'll kind of wrap it up, right? But basically, she's now gonna move. It's her mom, and her daughter, and they're actually gonna move. And it's so kind of random how this fell into place, but it's gonna work out really well. They're gonna move into this new house. So I'm now really doing like a midterm arbitrage. And I let them pay the same rate, which is still gonna work out super well because the lease there is $1,800 and they're paying $3,200. But I threw in utilities. So I said, hey, like after $100, I'll cover $100 in utilities just because I still think you're paying a good enough amount. I can cover some utilities. After that, they're going to have to be responsible for it. So I threw that in because the place is much bigger. It has it's a house. It has its own backyard and whatnot, right? So really, it's a deal in their eyes, and it is, right? When you consider the 1 bed, 1 bath that they're currently paying for, which is like 600 square feet, they're moving to like 1,100 square feet. And basically, I'll give my unit back downstairs, and I have a guest who I was just messaging on Airbnb. He's staying on Saturday. So the first guest now is going to be staying on Saturday after like 4 months. I've got Turnify coming tomorrow to do a clean. So yeah, that's kind of how it's evolved. And, it started out as, hey, I want to try out this Airbnb arbitrage thing. And now it's grown to this whole like midterm arbitrage. And Nee called me the other day, I think last Sunday, with another arbitrage opportunity up in Stone Mountain, which is super exciting. I don't think it's going to end up working out because of the rent and just the numbers and whatnot. But hey, I mean, he's a great guy, and I think I want to work with Connie in the future. And he mentioned he works with a lot of homes. But yeah, I've been talking. That's kind of how it's been going, and what point it's kind of gone to now. And at this point, I'm like, man, like that was fun. That was super fast, kind of how it developed. And now I'm looking for the next one. And I'm actually talking to my landlord now to see what other homes does she have that I can rent out. So yeah, that's it.
It's pretty incredible, man. And I can see, I can feel the excitement. And the cool thing is, like, you're not only providing more space for this individual, right? You're going from a 1 bedroom to a, right? They got plenty of space to spread out, but you're also benefiting, and like you're going to get consistent income in there that's going to make that, pure cash flow for you. And now you're covering the utilities. That's pretty incredible that you've added that unit, and now you've got the 1 bed back during the summer where you're still going to be booking up like crazy. Any questions for Desmond on this?
And did I hear Desmond say Turnify?
No, I know. I know, right? I never thought I'd see the day. I know.
Oh man.
You mean you're not over there cleaning right now?
I know. And that's how it used to be, but that's been a huge like weight off my shoulders. And I knew too, like as the scale started to happen, it would be impossible for me to be running across town because this one's like 20 minutes from me, cleaning these units. So
yeah, normally you're normally in a laundromat with some coins.
So Desmond, I'm happy to hear that too, because I think when I first got joined, you were cleaning, you and your girlfriend. But can you explain this arbitrage thing a little bit more? Because I'm not following what you're doing. So I'm sorry, I'm just catching up to it. So if you can just slow it down. So are you talking to homeowners and you're leasing their place and then putting it on Airbnb? Is that what you're doing?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And you have a little echo too, I think, on your. But basically, it's the idea, like you explained. Like I rent it out from owners, and then I look to put it on Airbnb or Booking.com or all the different platforms. And I try to kind of my strategy when I was first seeking out the owners, and it's still kind of my strategy, was seeking out like private owners, so like not like huge skyrise buildings or not like huge companies. So private owners like similar to myself who, are comfortable in the long-term game, right? Like they don't have any interest in like doing short-term or doing midterm, and are open, to allowing arbitrage. And I was basically trying to pose it as, and I actually saw this really from a guy on YouTube, but I was basically trying to pose it to the owners as like, hey, I'm gonna be the best tenant you could have, right? Like I'm gonna pay on time, and you know that because I'm making money out of the unit. So like I'm trying to have other people pay for it, right? I'm getting it professionally cleaned, every at least once a week, right? Because folks are leaving and coming in and what. And I mentioned that, and this is something I probably should get better at now that it's not my own place. I mentioned that I'll have solid screening policies in place, and this is something where I might have kind of fudged the numbers a little. But I basically mentioned that, hey, I'm going to have solid screening policies where I'm going to be bringing in solid guests. So, hey, you're not going to worry about complaints and whatnot. And then kind of lastly, I kind of mentioned, hey, I'm going to be doing more than the average tenant in terms of fixing, issues and doing the maintenance, right? Because I want this to go well, right? Like I'm not just, living and expecting you to do everything. Like I have a vested interest in this going well, So like I'm getting the lawn taken care of, I'm getting the gutters cleaned out. Like I'm doing those kind of things so that I can keep this one, really stay in the good graces of the landlord, but like also keep this arbitrage and like not have to move my stuff out and like not have the lease canceled in 3 months. Cause that's some of kind of the risk that comes into the arbitrage, right? It's not all like peaches and cream. Nothing is. But yeah, so there is some risk. But I'm trying to build up that good relationship so that the landlord wants to continue.
Hey, Desmond, two things about that. First, so I'm interested in arbitrage as well. I've heard people talk about adding an addendum to the lease. How do you consider that?
So yeah, it's something I have considered and something I want to do. I haven't done it yet, and that's actually a piece that is kind of scaring me right now, where like technically there's nothing in the lease right now that is allowing me to do the arbitrage, and we really have gone on like verbal conversation and good faith. I think we have one recorded conversation of them kind of mentioning, hey, we're going to allow this, but right now we're kind of going on good faith of them allowing me to do this, and we're doing like a trial 3-month lease, and it's going to be good for them, but also good for me for like, for them, they're going to see, am I going to be a good tenant? Am I going to pay on time? Yada, yada. But also me, I'm going to see, is this going to work out? Is this going to be a property that like I want to continue doing the arbitrage with, right? So like, I think that's something that I'm going to take with me to when I first started in a property. If I'm not like positive it's going to do well, and I was kind of sweating before we put this tenant in there, I was like, man, like I need to get this place listed because I'm on the hook for this lease, and it's my personal name on the lease, and they're open to allowing an LLC on the lease, which I want to move into and kind of get more sophisticated with the strategy. Yeah. So that's kind of, how I handle it. Yeah.
Makes total sense, man. Second question. How much did it cost for you to furnish? This is a 3-bedroom, right? Like how much did you sell?
So yeah, so luckily they actually had a good amount of pieces of furniture that came with the place, and that I got like super lucky on. The 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,800 with like there were beds in all the bedrooms, there were mattresses on all of the beds, we put like protectors on the mattresses, and we've inspected all the couches and whatnot for like bed bugs. So like that stuff I was kind of worried about, but I wanted to, make sure it was good before we put it into. So that's helped out a lot. I think aside from that, I probably spent like $5,000, I think. Excuse me. In total on the place. So like everything from like stocking the kitchen up and, bed sheets and all of that, because like, they are kind of moving in for a while now, but I still want to give them at least like the basic amenities that I give Airbnb guests.
Got it. Okay. And regular,
Yeah.
first last security type of deal with the landlord. Is that right?
With the landlord, yeah. So it's just the first and the security deposit, and then the idea is like after this 3-month trial, we'll ideally move to a year lease. So, yeah.
Sorry, my name is Kanayo. I know you mentioned something longer guest, and I'm just wondering what strategies you're using to do that. Because for me, I think I'm going to get in. I mean, sometimes there's kind of like a trade-off between we getting shorter time, because I feel like if I want to get long time, I'd have to really beat down my prices. But with short term and my prices being high, I'm still able to like pay my mortgage and all of that. But I'm just wondering what strategies you're kind of applying to people to rent longer and not just the weekend. Because all I get is the weekend. Maybe once in a while, I'll get a few days of the weeks.
Right. No, for sure. So to get this guest, honestly, and I have had like a few like repeat guests or guests that have extended for like a good amount of time. I haven't really done anything specifically to so it's a one bed, one bath. I think that might help a little bit in terms of like it at least being booked up during the week and also it being easier kind of for people to stay. I think the rate's a little lower than like some of the larger. I tried Furnish Finder. I haven't really had any luck on that. I think that's mostly because I don't have any laundry at my place, so I think it's tough for a longer term guest to like use a place without laundry. Although some are willing to do that, and I have the guests now doing. So yeah, like unfortunately, I don't really have a great answer for that. I haven't really done anything special, but I know Furnish Finder has worked for some. And otherwise, I just try to, I guess, always, and I think always, all of us are trying to deliver a quality product. And I think sometimes you kind of just strike gold with random guests that I think Nee has mentioned this as well, like guests that just book for months, like randomly. They kind of just, like it and want, it works out for them. So, and I think it kind of just can be random. It can be like a bit of luck.
And to that point, you never know when it's going to happen, right? You just got to be in the field playing the game. But one thing that you did do, Desmond, that was, I mean, you've been helping me out with that and all of our owners, is you were on every platform. Most people are just on Airbnb and then they shift over to VRBO because that's the next easiest. But do you mind talking about kind of what you discovered and your expertise?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. That's a good point because like I got on Airbnb, but then also me and my girlfriend use booking.com a lot, like when we travel. So we got on there VRBO. But another thing that I was doing too was I was actually going onto Facebook. And this is when like I was like really early out, like feeling desperate because we hadn't had any bookings. Yeah, I think it was like right when I put the place up, right? But I was basically going in Facebook and specifically joining and there would be certain groups where like people are looking for like, it'll be like buy and rent groups or like even like the student groups for like colleges around the city, right? They'll have groups like related to getting apartments. And I was joining those groups looking for people like renting apartment, trying to find a place, right? And a lot of times it'll be people like looking for a midterm, looking for 3 months, looking for like 6 months in the summer, especially students. Like if you look at a lot of it's like Georgia Tech, right? They'll have a lot of, folks in the forums, like looking for places, but also there are just general ones in Atlanta as well. And I was like digging, me and my girlfriend were literally going and like digging for people looking for places. And we were at first messaging them. Now I'm not doing that because thankfully they come through the platform, but I would go back to that if I did to. And I think that can be a solid option because people are on there marketing their properties. Like if you're not on there, the next host is definitely on there putting their property up. They're probably doing it also for like a crash pad is what it's called. I learned that from Facebook where like it's for pilots and folks just coming in needing a bed for the night. So like that's another way that people are getting money from rentals that I didn't even know about. So that's one way, yeah, that I'll mention. Like definitely being on a lot of the platforms and even like going some of the weird routes, Facebook, Craigslist, like sign on the side of the house. Those can work.
I don't know about the last one. But the Facebook, that's a great advice because you can definitely pull the people off of there. And really that booking.com, it started to pick up for a couple of our properties. And that was one where I tried to figure it out initially. And quite frankly, just, the capacity ran out. I was like, hey, this is kind of a lot to get this going. Thankfully, Desmond figured it out and he's been lending and helping him. And we actually consult with him to help us get all of our properties. He's actually working on the mansion right now. I hope he is. I mean, you're not into a lot of people.
I moved our meeting. I promise I'm making it tomorrow. I was finishing the arbitrage today, so that's done. So yeah.
That's fair. Hey, you heard it here. We got an update now. He said tomorrow it's done. But so tapping into that piece, if you're not on there, and I'll ask you, Kanile, are you on booking.com, VRBO, and Air?
I'm only on Airbnb and Furnish Finder. But just so I think one of the reasons why I'm not on Book, I mean, this is a little bit I'm on an H-1B, right? I can only do things that are passive income. I don't think Booking.com will be considered passive income. I think that's why I'm sticking to it and Airbnb. I don't think Booking.com, Airbnb is strictly like me sharing my space. So I can defend that anytime I need it. I'm just sharing my.
Fair enough. Okay. That is fair. True. Because Booking.com is more like a quote unquote hotel.
Exactly.
Okay.
They kind of changed it recently though. I feel like that's kind of how they started, like doing like having hotels. But like if you go on there, you can like filter for apartments and stuff, and you'll see they don't have like shared room as an option like Airbnb does. But you'll see people have like their like rooms available. So it might
The one
if you're
major
interested.
piece, the one major
Yeah.
piece, because I'm with you on that. The one major piece with it is it does show up like on Google. Like if you Google, hey,
Right.
X whatever, it'll give you the address as if it's a hotel. Where Airbnb, it's not going to show up. VRBO, it's not going to. It's more. It's hard. Like somebody really have to dig to find that. Booking.com, you can Google it and find it.
I also want to
Very
do something
easily,
I can defend. You can defend anytime, any day that Airbnb is me sharing my space, but I really can't defend it with Booking.
True. And we
Yeah, I'm a furnish finder too, and I've been trying to reach out to people to see. But then I always have this thing in the back of my head that I'd rather have somebody take the entire house, because one thing I've noticed is I have a 5-bedroom, and that is what people take the most. That's what gives me the most money than people renting my house in parts, right? I get the better reviews when people take the entire house. So my selling product is the entire house and not partly. So I'm kind of hesitant to also rent out maybe just in parts too, because I know that the major selling product I have is the entire 5-bedroom house. So it's that dilemma of trying to decide, should I still risk? If I saw 5 people that wanted the entire house, I'd rather do that, because that would be more secure income than me maybe renting out 2 of the bedrooms and hoping to rent out the 3-bedroom.
And there's a lot of different strategies for that. And I hear you on that, because the bigger groups, maybe all pay more and everybody knows each other. So it kind of controls the experience. It takes more work to be able to split the two and make it work. And you've got to put a lot of disclosures up front. You got to put a lot of signage inside and kind of make sure you're managing the two. But we do, I want to say 3 properties right now that are also maybe four properties that are split and kind of do it that way. And what I personally like about it, I'll just talk about, the one that I own, is they kind of cover each other. Like I have a single family with the in-law suite, renting out both units. And yes, we do get some questions. It is a little bit weird at times. Maybe there's going to be some noise things from time to time. But lo and behold, when you get somebody booked for 30 days in one of them, it kind of takes that pressure off, and then everything else is gravy for the other one. And they kind of cover each other. Where if you're renting a whole space, yes, you can get a way bigger bang for your buck. You're guaranteeing kind of that there's not going to be any issues with other guests on site. But what about that person that wants to rent just a 2-bedroom? I can tell you that there's people on this call right now, their 2 bedrooms have been booked up constantly, right? That are in your area, because a lot more smaller groups will rent that throughout the year. Because if I'm just, me and maybe 2 other people or one other person, I'm not looking to rent a whole 5-bedroom house, right? I may look for like a 3. But it kind of rules out some people too when you have the bigger space and not the smaller sections.
Yeah, I get that. So I think what I do is, so one thing is my house is fully booked every weekend till I think almost August, right? But the weekdays are what my problems are right now, right? So in trying to fill that weekdays, I'm reducing the price of especially the of both units, right? So like a very minimum amount that most times I get to rent out the 2-bedroom, easy. But it comes once in a while. Like I did have someone stay there for like a week last week, 2 weeks ago. Sorry, last week. And I don't have anybody staying there again. So like in another 2 weeks, booked for the entire week from Monday to Friday. So yeah, it would be get like, people rent out both of them separately. Well, like you said, it's always, the last time I had people rent out the 2 places separately, the person on top that person that gave me a bad review, because the people downstairs made noise and disturbed her sleep or something, and she gave me a 3 stars. So she said every other thing was perfect, but the people renting downstairs were making noise and they disturbed her sleep. So she gave me a 3 stars for that. So it's
That's
it's
so
kind of
cool.
it's I don't know, it's just a trade off. Like it's what I'm still struggling trying to like balance things, renting out the whole place or renting out like just uh,
That is fair. No, and I think you're going about the right way, kind of having it listed on all three and seeing which one comes in. The 5 bedroom for the weekend is going to give you the biggest bang. And yeah, they kind of separating those two out. The only thing I would suggest is looking at the listing and seeing if you could put in there, make it very clear, hey, there's going to be somebody else. And then even in the automated messages, like, hey, you should park on this side, all that stuff, right? Just to make sure it's fully separate. Forget exactly how it worked, but we always have a couple subtle reminders that, hey, there is somebody else renting out the upper space. And sometimes we even just say, hey, the sometimes occupies the other space, or the owner's friend sometimes occupies the other space, just to kind of take, um, but yeah, aside from that, you can't really control, if somebody else messes up somebody else's experience by trying to throw a party or something of that nature.
I have all of those things in my automated messages. That there's a guest upstairs, especially for the two bookings that I have for downstairs and upstairs. The one for downstairs, I always say, hey, make sure you park on. Always remember that there's a guest up. And this is the entrance to your own units. Like I have all those things written in the message that to the guest the day before. And I think I also have it on my listing because I think the first time, one of the guests I had, one of the first guests I had, when the person came, they thought they were getting the entire house. So when they came and it was a down unit, I was like, how do you think you're paying? You paid $100 for like a 5 bedroom. And they're like, good, they thought it's like the entire house. So they ended up, after we had like altercation, something, they wanted to cancel, they called Airbnb. I ended like collecting extra cash from them, right? And upgrading them to the top units, which was a bigger space. The top unit is a lot bigger. And they stayed there for like a week. That was a good one. But after that one, I made it clear on my listing that if you're booking downstairs, this is not the entire house. I have a picture there where I show the entrance and I show you like, this is for this unit here, not for the entire house, just so you know. So I think
Yeah.
gradually, like with every listing I get, like I just always go back to my, put in more details and all of that.
You gotta let them know, man. You can't rent 5 bedrooms for $100. It doesn't work like that. All right. We're not doing that. But no, shifting gears. Wanted to kick it over to Levi, who's joining us tonight. He actually put together, I think a lot of you should have received it, but he put together a neuter, and this was the first market update. And so happy to have you joining, even though you're a little bit under the weather. Thank you for making the commitment here. But anything you wanted to share from that standpoint about the market in general, and kind of highlight?
I guess biggest thing noted, cause I looked at a lot of data and, I don't know if you guys have been hearing it, but everyone's like, oh, the market's going down. The market's going down. We're going to enter a recession, going to be the end of the world again. Real estate's going to crash. And essentially that is kind of true. So overall, the market did go down in comparison to last year and the year before that, but they don't mention the fact that we're still up from the pre-pandemic, which no one talks about, where the Fed reduced numbers to zero, making money essentially free to borrow. So then everyone's like, oh, I can afford a house now. Let's go buy. And then not only that, but also you had to compete with institutions and hedge funds because they're also getting the same low rates as the traditional homeowner. But the only difference is they have access to way more capital so they can lend more. I mean, they can borrow way more. So what ended up happening was COVID happened. The government was like, okay, we need to lower rates so that, economy can still function properly. And so they lowered them. Now, all of a sudden, investors starts buying. All of a sudden, all the people who traditionally, the top of the market essentially consumed everything else. And now you have it to where, I don't know if you've been seeing it, but a lot of specifically multifamily is now they had these extreme balloons. They had, and essentially their plan was to refinance. And that was their whole plan was, listen, the deal is going to work. We're in it for so low. The money is so cheap. It doesn't matter. We can refinance out of this and be good. Now, all of a sudden, so I think it's like 40 don't quote me on this, but I know it's under 40% are going to fail all the loans, to the point where now they're kind of trying to figure out, how can we not have you fail? Cause this is going to affect our bottom line. And so that kind of affected also the residential side, because now you see home prices going down. But if you look at it, if you compare home prices now versus 2019, we're still up. And you can't really look at 2020, 2021, because that has never happened in the history of real estate or the economy. And we're probably never going to see those numbers ever again. So I think it's very important to note the context of the crash. And I don't really view it as a crash. I view it more of as a correction from those pre-pandemic and just us returning back to. So that was the biggest thing I noticed. Aside from that, for the people who have seen the newsletter, this was the first draft. So feedback is always good. Let me know. I spent a lot of time on the design. I'm real OCD about it. I had to make the pretty. So hopefully you guys like that. But anything or any information you'd like for me to add in the next edition, or anything that you would like to be included, or
I wanted to ask a quick question. So I know I've been hearing about the commercial real estate crashing just in general, because I think with all multifamily homes and commercial real estate deals, it's all 5-year where you pay a what is it called? A stable interest rate for 5 years, and after that the interest rate basically becomes adjustable. So you have to basically refinance every 5 years. I know the commercial real estate is crashing because of COVID, and basically a lot of companies not leaving a lot of workspace. But I have not heard that about the multifamily homes. I know there is an issue with people not being able to refinance, but this is the first time someone actually said that the multifamily homes, so people who own 20 units and 30 units. Like, where did you kind of get the information from?
Yeah,
And
so that is for
more detail
specifically
on
new
kind of the
construction.
multifamily home.
It's specifically for new construction.
Okay.
So I don't know the numbers for old, but everyone who planned on building, and their plan was, we're going to build super low rates and then refinance. That's that specific. I'm not too sure about, all the other ones. And to your point, I know office is doing really poorly now. I know a lot of those places where they initially, work from home people, they're kind of fighting the whole, I don't want to go back, which is causing a lot of office spaces to go down in value. So I can send you some of the links. I know Bigger Pockets talks about it. I don't know if you watched their On the Market podcast, but they talked a bit there. They actually had a guy on, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and he does multifamily syndication. And he basically says that a lot of the people that were doing it, they didn't have good fundamentals. Essentially, they didn't stick to, the fact of, this is crazy, this is not normal, we should act in accordance to that. They thought essentially, oh, it's free money. We'll borrow it and then we'll go figure it out.
Not to mention, I don't think anybody saw the Fed, effectively doubling, maybe a little bit more than doubling in way later. Like, yes, it should go up, but that was a major hit to take. I can tell you, even just looking at HELOCs, which is basically a quote unquote commercial loan, it's following the Fed interest rate. My HELOC went from 5% to now it's 10%. That's nuts, right? Like that's significantly more than I signed up for. 10%, I probably wouldn't have used it. Like, I think I'm good. But at 5%, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And now you're going to lock in and paying that. And so, yeah, when you look at some of the commercial deals, especially when they started building it at X%, and then that X% doubled or tripled, it's an issue, right? We're doing that deal out in Louisville. Thankfully, all that stuff already happened. So we're at the high interest rate, we're running our numbers at the 8.5s that they're giving us. And if it goes down a little bit, and I'm thankful that the Fed actually mentioned today, or they're paused. They paused for a little bit. They said there were going to be two more rate hikes at some point this year, but they paused for right now. If it's true, right, and we are paused for a little bit, and maybe it comes down in a year or two, the deal's going to look better. But like, if they keep going on that path up, it gets harder and harder to actually cover the note, and you've really got to be tight on, kind of your numbers and have a reserve to keep through that.
And just your point, the numbers, like two deals that we talked about, the 7 unit and the 6 unit. I was looking at profit and loss. I'm like, oh, this looks amazing. And I did ask my realtor about it, but I was so excited it made sense with the midterms for those particular deals that I overlooked, like, hey, what's the interest rate? I mean, no, what's the mortgage? Once you add the mortgage, I wasn't making as much as I thought I was. And then they reviewed the second one. It was like, okay, I can make this, but what if water, you start adding the little things that cost, and it doesn't make sense with the, with.
It's true. And the one caveat I would give you, right, is when you look at the long term, and you got to look at your overall portfolio and your overall picture, and hey, can I withstand a little bit of downturn, right? And so when you look at the long term, what I keep thinking about is that I just want to own as many of these properties for the long run as possible. And the firm example that I have in my head now, I used to just think about, properties I've done before and very good. But the firm example I have now is the property I'm buying in Snellville. We're buying it for $800K, right? They bought this in 2010 for 120,000, right? They're going to walk away from that closing with almost $1 million, right? Closer to $1 million than it is to $500,000, which is nuts. It's absolutely crazy to happen in a little over 10 years. But what do you think prices are going to be 10 years from now, right? It's only going to keep going up in my mind over the long run. There may be some dips and things of that nature. I can tell you even, Mark, you're up in the New England area, right? I'm sure you could buy houses for a lot cheaper 30 years ago in Boston than you can right now, right? And so it's one of those things that helps keep you focused and going. And what I'm getting at is like the house up there, the numbers don't make sense for where they're at right now. If it did, it gets snatched up. The numbers don't make sense. They're bringing in, the mortgage is like $7,000, right? Mortgage plus interest and everything. The rate of $5,000, mortgage is $7,000. So I'm actually losing money on paper when I take it over. And we're buying it for $800,000. But once we do some updates, once we boost the rents, once we switch over one of the units to a short-term rental, it's going to boost it up to about $8,400. Now those numbers do make sense. And guess what? Over time, you're able to add that normal 2 to 3% on top of the rents and slowly take it up and slowly take it up. But your mortgage is locked in. And so 2-3 years down the road, it really makes sense. You just may have to get creative early on. I know you were thinking about doing that too, Bobby, with, kind of midterm renting a couple of them, but it's just trying to pick a location where it's going to continue to, be on the path of progress and weather the storm.
It does. At one point, I feel confident that it's going to pick up. I did my research happening in that area. What the numbers I have. I want it to work, but I don't want to force it. And then to your point, like a lot of these deals now, as far as maybe even single family living, add value, right? Even the ones that are big deals, more they add value. And I don't necessarily feel confident in making that happen from afar yet. And that's why I asked about the contract. And also I asked about another question. Think of it right now, but the confidence to kind of do it, like just bought my first out of state. So now I'm like, I'm about to work with a contract out of state. Like this is like building that confidence. How did you get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna make this happen and I feel comfortable in putting the work in and getting into that 8,500 and now I've got the mortgage covered. And how long, like what buffer are you baking that into? Like, hey, I got 6 months or 3 months to kind of get it.
Yeah. So to your point, the first piece about working with a contractor out of state, that just takes trial and error. And I'm talking about it like about the good parts that happened, but man, there was a couple where I was like, hey, that rehab was terrible. Now I got to spend extra money to get like things that should have been done fixed. Now the tenant's calling, hey, the water's like, there's a lot that way. But one way that you can mitigate that is having a rock star somewhere in your team that you can talk to. That's one piece to be out of state. And I would not recommend taking on a full-on big project unless you know you have some things in place. What made me comfortable with taking this one on up there is I've invested in a bunch of flips out here. I've done a couple different properties out here. And so now I have the contractors in place where I can get 3, 4, 5 bids from solid people that do work for us or have done work for us and just pick one and say, hey, we're going to roll with you on this one, make it happen. One reason. And two, even try to position the loan in a way where we could close and have a little bit of runway. So for example, we're supposed to close on the 9th. As you know, things get shifted. So now it's looking like the end of this month, like next week, which is not ideal. It's not what I was looking for, but long story short, if we get close on the 9th, the reason I was targeting that date is because the next mortgage would not be due August 1st, right? The rehab that we have on the first property is going to be done within 20 days. And then we're able to furnish it, get it listed and kind of have that money kind of boosted up. So immediately you're kind of getting that piece. There's other things you can do within a deal to make that happen. So if you can close to the month, it's going to give you a little more runway to actually get those guys in there and start work. But But yeah, it's just going to come with time, man. I would not recommend, if you're just now working with some people, I would kind of run the course and get the learnings from that before applying it to a bigger project.
Thank you for the advice. I'll make sure to do that. I just got to build my team. So, rockstar agent up, and like you said, just kind of trial and error. Thanks for that.
Done and done. And guys, we are really close to time. We got about 3 minutes left, but I did want to kick it over to Franz because we haven't heard from you.
I am on, I wasn't here last week because I was dealing with like a tenant that didn't want to pay, and he gave me the whole idea of like, he didn't know or some crap. So I had to get my lawyer. So I had to get a lawyer. So that was really cool, going through the process of vetting different lawyers and everything like that, and understanding the whole protections in Fulton County, in DeKalb County. So that was really cool. So he paid yesterday, so we're good.
What payment? What are you manage a tenant? Are you collecting checks?
No. We talked about that. I'm using Avail. The reason I didn't do like Buildium or anything like that's because it's free and it charges the tenant instead of charging me for most of everything. I'm okay with them. And I was able to do like late payments, reminders and everything like that. And so
For the lawyer,
it works for the most
right? I
part.
love this question. Did you find somebody, and what are the fees that they?
Yeah. So I did find someone, and my job offers this thing called ARAG. And so I was able to go through them, and they just cover it all. I just pay like $20 a month through my paycheck.
Is your job higher?
Yeah. So
That sounds good.
So yeah, so they covered everything, official letter. So I'm glad I actually went through them because I was doing some reading online. I thought I could have done everything on my own, which I could have, but the letters that he sent over to the tenant were like very official, and it supported the letters of the law. So I guess I'll be able to use it moving forward for like another eviction because I'm sure it'll happen again. But definitely with the first one, I'm glad I used a lawyer.
And honestly, it's like for $20. So in Louisville, I had all this kind of situated for long-term rentals, and I'm working on that here because now I'm getting ready. And so I definitely want to get that lawyer's contact.
Got it.
Long story short, in Louisville, I think it was like $300 fee, and they would handle everything. Highly recommend, if you have long-term tenants, find a lawyer like Frank did and just pay them whatever the fee. Because if you mess up one of those steps, like in Louisville, it's a 14-day notice. Like you got to send this notice out via certified mail. And then you got to there's some weird nuances. If you mess one of those steps up with a professional tenant, they'll get out, and then you got to start the whole process over again. Whereas if you go with a lawyer, they're going to take care of everything.
You said it was $300 for the whole eviction?
Yep. From start to finish. And that covered all the filing fees, it covered the lawyer fees, and they would take it up. So I just, hey guys, this person didn't pay, hand it over to them, and they'd start going.
Yeah, me being from New York, where some of my friends have properties out there, and it takes about a year to kick them out.
And this is why I did not keep any properties in Boston. No offense, Mark. Bought that property, house hacked it when I lived there, and sold that thing as soon as I got out because it's not landlord friendly. Most of the Northeast is not, for good reason. Back in the day, it's freezing in the Northeast. Like landlords used to be crazy, you kick people out, things of that nature. So they have rules in place. But yeah, I like the Southeast because it's more landlord friendly. But guys, we are going to wrap it up for tonight. Appreciate everybody joining. Lebon, thank you again for putting out the newsletter. I think some comments here on what we can include in the next one.